Did we just lose Harmony?
It was just on.
Yep, I just saw her.
Oh.
Because I think Vivian's still on break.
She's going to be rejoining as a panelist here.
Yep, there she is.
I was like, what? I've been holding it the whole time.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, we are live and ready when you are.
Okay, sounds good. We will go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Seldovia City Council, Monday, September 22nd, 2025. Time is 6:19 p.m. Apologies for the late start. We had our last work session that ran over. We'll go ahead and do roll call. Langbart?
Here.
Barber?
Here.
Let's see. Rojas is going to be joining us late. Peyton?
Here.
And Keithley.
Here.
All right, we do have 4 out of 5 council members currently present, and we do have a quorum. So we will go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. And Heidi or Liz, if you could lead us off on that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. We have no excused absences tonight. As I said, Rojas will be joining us late. Item D, agenda approval. We'll go ahead and look for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll go ahead and approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a, let's see, we have a motion. Let's see, was it Langbart that made the original motion?
Right.
Yeah, that was me.
Okay. So, and sorry, I missed the second. Was that Ashley?
Correct.
Okay. A motion by Langbart to approve tonight's agenda with a second by Keithley. Any further discussion on the approval of the agenda before we vote? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead on and vote on the approval of tonight's agenda. All those in favor, Langbart?
Aye.
Barber?
Aye.
Peyton?
Aye.
And Keithley?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes with 4 in the affirmative. None opposed. Let's see, item E, consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are approved with a single motion, no discussion, and 1 vote. A council member may request to remove any item for discussion and a separate vote. Any items removed from the consent agenda will be placed under new business. We have 1 item tonight under the consent agenda, and that is the approval of minutes from the special meeting on September 9th, 2025. Does any member wish to remove any item for separate discussion? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and look for a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion from Council Member Langbart to approve tonight's consent agenda with a second by Member Keithley. Any further discussion on the consent agenda before we vote? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the approval of tonight's consent agenda. All those in favor, Langbart?
Aye.
Barber?
Aye.
Peyton?
Aye.
Keithley?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 4 in the affirmative, none opposed. That was the approval of tonight's consent agenda, item E. Item F, mayoral proclamations, none. Item G, public presentation, prior notice. We have none. Item G, public presentation for items not on the agenda. Liz, do we have anyone? We lost our council feed, and do we have anyone signed up for public presentation for items not on the agenda tonight?
I'm not seeing any hands raised, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Sounds good. That will take us to item I, that is committee and advisory board reports. Looks like we're gonna have, we have one on here now. I think a second one was added with Dr. Zink. So let's see, I1, this will be Walt Sonnen. We'll go first with Cook Inlet Region Citizens Advisory Committee, otherwise known as CIRCAC.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. We had a very successful meeting on the 5th of September, Friday, several weeks ago. And the CIRCAC meets in Seldovia every 3 years. And so we sort of jumped on it this time. And I had received complaints in the past that, gee whiz, we didn't spend enough time in Seldovia. We really want to look around. And so they came on the early ferry on the 4th. And most of the party went out to view the Consistent Bay Laboratory, and were led around there and had time in the afternoon to walk around town and that kind of thing, which I think was very successful. The meeting went very smoothly. I think everyone enjoyed it and had a little bit of leisure time. Both the hotels and the food service provided by Jack and Avis was commendable. On the meeting on the 5th, which was at the SBT conference room, started at 9, and we had a introduction by Jack Barber. And thank you very much, Jack, for stepping forward. And I might mention that both Heidi and Liz stayed for the meeting through the lunch hour, and that's when the real meat of the meeting occurred. We heard from Captain Culpepper, who is a captain of the Coast Guard, and he's called captain of the port, which includes all of Cook Inlet and Western Alaska. And he came forward to announce that this is his 3rd and final year in that position. He talked about the Coast Guard pursuit vessels, fast response vessels. Alaska has had what they call the 110s, the 110-foot vessels, and there's been a 110 in Homer that's moored inside the harbor for as long as I can remember. And those 110s are being phased out. They're being sold to the country of Colombia in South America. And they're being replaced by what they will call the 154s. And there will be 3 stationed in Kodiak. Sadly, there will not be one in Homer. I don't think they can fit in the harbor. I think maybe that's one of the reasons for that. And he talked about icebreakers. I don't think he mentioned the Storas, which I heard on the news just recently was put into service. It's a reconditioned vessel that's been with the Coast Guard for some time, but it was fully renovated and strengthened for ice service. But there are new icebreakers in the works. We're talking 10 to 12 years. We heard from Yedamar Rodriguez with the ADEC. I always look forward to his reports. They're very thorough. He's with the SPAR, which is the preparedness um, preparedness and response, spill repair, preparedness and response section. And he for the last several meetings has been reporting of 95% retention of staff, which is certainly quite a change. Certainly quite a change from years past when there was like a 20% turnover, almost yearly. So we're happy to hear from him. Brian Hawkins, who is the port director of Homer, gave a lengthy report about the plans for expanding the Homer Harbor for reasons that many of us who frequent the harbor there is necessary, because it, particularly in the wintertime, the large vessels are very crowded and have to be turned away. This project is still in the planning situation. There are 3 plans out. They haven't decided on one of them and haven't fine-tuned any of them. But the planning stage will be, the cost will be borne by 50% by the feds, 25% by Homer, and 25% by the state of Alaska. This is an ongoing thing, so keep tuned. We had an interesting report from a fellow named Todd Duke, and he is with Resolve Marine. And why exactly this fellow was roped in and why he came, I'm not quite sure, but it was a very interesting report. He was in charge of the resurrection of the accident where a vessel lost power in Baltimore and ran into the Francis Scott Key Bridge last March, and talked very intimately about all of the problems that they had in removing the ship and the waste, the bridge, et cetera, and emphasized that with the wreckage, many of the containers, the contents of many of the containers got mixed, and the combination of that made different gases and whatnot that was it was not advisable at all to use torches to remove a lot of the material. And just it took 55 days to refloat the vessel. There were 40,000 tons of waste and 35 tons of the bridge that had to be removed. We heard from Todd Paxton, who is the head man of the CISPRI, the Cook Inlet Spill Response company that oversees all of the safety, and if there is an accident, they are the first to be called to address an oil spill in Cook Inlet. They have a budget of $15 to $17 million a year, and they're fully funded by the oil companies. Anyone that carries refined product and or unrefined product in Cook Inlet has to provide their budget or money for their budget, and 58% of that is by Marathon, because they are the largest outfit that deals with oil in this area. They have non-dedicated fishing vessels to respond. And I didn't know that there was this many. There's 70 on contract here in Cook Inlet. And another statistics that's kind of interesting, the barge that is in Seldovia Bay has a capacity of 59,000 barrels of oil. And you see this out here, and it's simply a response barge. If there's a spill, they can retrieve and store oil on that barge to get it out of the water. The CISPRI is going to, starting in the first of next year, will go under a different name. They're reconfiguring their corporate status, and they're going to be known as ARRC, which is the Alaska Response Cooperative Corporation. Then there was a note here that Governor Dunleavy's recent order to review and revise regulations may compromise CISPRI's oil capabilities for spill response. And I can't tell you any more about that. It's a little bit deep for me, and it wasn't covered in detail. Well, that's about it. Anyway, it was a very interesting meeting with the speakers that were asked to come forward. Does anyone have any questions?
Thanks, Walt. If anyone's got any questions, chime in.
Well, thanks. I'm going to chime out.
Thank you,
Mr.
Walt.
Mayor,
Yep, go ahead, Heidi.
if I just may say that, yes, myself and City Clerk Diamond and actually Councilmember Barber did attend for the morning session, and it was really informative, and it was great because we do hear your reports very frequently, but to see the body in action and to firsthand how you guys are receiving that information was a really great experience. So I really appreciate that SERCAT came to Seldovia for that meeting, and I really encourage when they come back that more council members and public attend if they have the opportunity, because it was really a great experience. So.
Yeah, I was very happy to see all three of you guys at the meeting. That kind of meant a lot to me. So for the support, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Walt. Appreciate your report as always. Good to hear there was a good response, and thank you to the city manager, Councilmember Barber, and our clerk for attending. Let's see the next one. We do have Dr. Zink. He's going to be giving a report with the Prince William Sound Regional Citizens Advisory Committee. Vivian, you got your hand up? Are you just telling us you're back?
Just telling you I'm back. Yep.
All right. For the record, Councilmember Rojas has rejoined us.
This on?
Yep,
Okay.
we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. I'm Kirk Zink. I'm the representative to the Prince William Sound Regional Citizens Advisory Committee, the Seldovia rep. We just met Thursday and Friday of this past week in Cordova. We have a fall meeting that rotates among communities, and some of us were just discussing before the conference. Seldovia is scheduled in the year after next, as I understand it, to be one of those communities. And so Heidi has offered to work with us on that, make it happen. So the meeting, I just chose a few things to cover that kind of stood out of the meeting during this past week. What we did during the meeting was address progress and issues over the past year that pertain to monitoring and protecting Prince William Sound as oil is stored and then transported out of Alaska waters. Our oversight starts at the Valdez Marine Terminal where the pipeline ends, and we monitor oil storage at that site, loading of tankers, handling of ballast water that is offloaded in the process from tankers coming in to take oil out, and the safe transportation of oil from the Valdez Marine Terminal through Alaska waters to international waters that are 17 miles offshore. The Prince William Sound, the committee works with and advises in the maintenance and preserving the resources of Prince William Sound, and works with government agencies, shipping companies on environmental issues. We work with the Coast Guard, we work with the city and tribal governments, and we work with other citizens of the Alaska coast. And as I stumble here, I will say I'm a little tired. I spent a good portion of the day sitting in my truck waiting for weather to lift in Homer and working on this little thing. So anyway, so I apologize. Here's a brief description of the issues that were discussed and acted on at our recent meeting. At the terminal where oil is, it's the end of the pipeline and oil is stored there. There's been a consistent and ongoing problem with a containment liner that underlies the tanks in which oil is stored to prevent oil from leaking should there be a spill or a breach in the tanks, and going down the hill to the ocean, which is because that is on a hill. Containment liner is 4 to 6 feet under gravel. I've spoken of this before. It's just as ongoing. But anyway, it's 4 to 6 feet under gravel, which is, and this gravel and liner combination underlies all storage tanks. It continues to be a big concern. It's been studied, researched, and experimented with significant intensity over the past 3 years. There doesn't appear to be an easy or low-cost resolution of this liner. There's been some hope in this process occasionally as this goes along, but it doesn't seem to be, we haven't found a solution, or Alyeska has not found a solution yet, and the people that are working with them. The liner, I'll point out, is over 50 years old. So in addition to Alyeska's efforts to find some kind of remedy for this storage and containment issue, the Prince William Sound Commission has had 3 scientists and other experts in this area engaged in frequent study of the problem. More recently, during the past year, Alyeska has twice delayed the provision of a report on this issue which was the original report was due close to 1 year ago, but they apparently are encountering some challenges. So they have agreed with to provide a report by the end of December, and so we'll see how that goes. And they are, of course, working with the Alaska DEC. Secondly, the Valdez Marine Terminal includes 3 tanks where ballast water is stored on removal from incoming tanker ships. 1 tank is out of service due to disintegration, again, age. And it will, the conversation is that it'll be the idea is to remove it and take it out. It's been taken out of service, but to remove it. That would leave 2 tanks remaining. And at present, only one of those ballast water tanks is actively used. The other provides a backup if needed, if there's a problem. It is anticipated that with the new oil fields coming on, there's 3 new oil fields coming on in 2028, 2029, that time, and they will be utilizing the pipeline. So there's an ongoing discussion as to the merits of replacing that tank and the necessity of it. like so many issues at the Valdez Marine Terminal, age is a major factor. So this is always comes into play. We also discussed shipping, and we had representatives of the Alaska Tanker Company present a series of illustrations and explanations of recent engine upgrades that are happening in their fleet. The engines on their tankers are being refurbished and updated in a two-stage process that occurs while the ships remain in service. This prevents having to place ships in dry docks, which is an extensive and month-long process. And what they're doing instead is working, they just working as the ships are hauling oil and in between hauls and so on. Their changes are expected to result in a significant increase in engine efficiency, a decrease in fuel consumption, and changes in emissions so that they add less pollutants to the atmosphere. This fleet is 20 years old, and anyway, it was a pretty impressive presentation and really kind of, I think, elevating because it really had a lot of promise to it. So we also, in the shipping area, heard a presentation from a tanker company called TK, which is based out of Sweden. There, with more oil coming through the Prince William Sound, there may be times when they need to bring on other tankers in order to haul it. And so this is there's a lot of concern around foreign flag fleets. However, this one, Manmeet Chahabra, who's a representative of this tanker company, explained how their oil tankers are equipped and how all members of the crews are trained regarding operations in U.S. waters. So every crew member gets it, not just the captain and the officers. In addition, all crew members must speak English, and they are trained in the U.S. expectations and regulations regarding maritime transportation before they're placed on a ship that will transport oil in U.S. waters. So the one more interesting thing about this company is it is family owned. It is a Swedish family that owns it, and it is headquartered in Stockholm. They have a worldwide fleet of ships, and again, safe operation is their primary concern. They are not currently transporting oil. However, they're making themselves available for consideration as the volume of oil that feeds into the pipeline will increase. We also heard about dispersants, which breaks up oil when oil gets spilled on water. That's been another significant concern, and there's a lot of effort that goes into this. We heard from Dr. Merv Fingus, who's an internationally recognized expert on spill science regarding oil and chemical spills. Basically, what is happening right now is the dispersants that are in use when oil contaminates water are not being quite as effective as they used to be, because the oil that is being shipped is of a different viscosity. We've had a lot of kind of heavy crude oil that we've dealt with before, but this newer oil, the crude oil, that heavy crude is playing out. But this newer oil, it has some advantages in terms of how it's used and its effectiveness. And however, it requires something other than what we currently have. So they're working on addressing spills with this lighter form of crude. Just a couple things that Walt said that I might add. We also hear from Yanmar Rodriguez continuously. He's at all of our meetings, and so there's a lot of input there. And then secondly, Walt was talking about changes in the CISPRI response. And we have in Prince William Sound a fleet of fishing boats that are and crew that are trained, and these are locals from the cities, towns in the areas. They are trained and included in annual drills in the spring in cooperation with oil companies to contain and recover spills when they do happen. That has been challenged some by some new regulations that have gone in the last couple of years that would require specific qualifications that most of these fishermen don't have. This is a volunteer fleet. We've been working with the Coast Guard and Senator Sullivan to maintain the response fleet and meet the need in Prince William Sound. So far, things seem to be going pretty well. So just another issue we're working on. And with that, I'll ask if there are any questions.
Thanks, Kirk. Appreciate your report. Any
Okay.
questions, comments from anyone on council tonight?
Mr. Mayor, I have a few if there isn't any from the council.
Yep, go ahead, Heidi.
Just curious, Dr. Zink, is there an overarching organization that supports those fishing vessels that are providing oil support in Prince William Sound, like similar to CISPRI? Or if there's some kind of a support structure for that?
It's the support structure is in the Prince William Sound structure itself. I mean, we have people, Roy Robertson and a couple other people that work with that fishing group to do those drills in the spring. And so
So they're like their own organization?
yeah. I don't know that we have a formal name for it or not, but I
Okay.
can check it out.
And then and maybe we could talk a little bit more offline about this, but I was curious if you were talking about the disbursements are not being as effective. Are they looking into or doing any research to make that change?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. This Dr. Merv Fengus is, as I said, he's an international expert in this, and he's working with Dr. Danielle Verna, who's on our staff, to examine and develop other ways of handling the spill. So this is recent because we just had about 2 years ago, I think we had just a great report on dispersants and stuff, had a day-long workshop on it and stuff. And then during this meeting, this issue came up. So it's fairly new. It's just a matter of we're pumping the oil out and we're getting a different grade of oil now. Things change.
It's really interesting.
It is interesting.
And the last one I had that was just maybe more of a curiosity is you talk about this Swedish company and the stringent requirements. I'm just curious if you're hearing in general, maybe not necessarily from them, but from others, issues with employment recruitment. Does that come up, or is that just separate in the meetings? Because I know that sometimes with these regulations in these industries, it can be really hard to employ or to recruit and retain employees that meet those specifications.
I'm not. I mean, this is my assumption is that this is probably a foreign crew, but I mean, but they operate all over the world. I can't remember how many sites they have, but it's well over 20 in different areas of the world. And so my guess, I mean, this sounds like a really efficient operation and well thought out and not, I mean, we have in the last couple of meetings had issues on communication, having people speak and understand English, and some other things. I was really impressed. One of the things that and this is a small item right now, but one of the things that happens with this group is, again, the crew doesn't come on board if they are not trained, you know.
Yeah.
And again, they have to be English speakers, so however that works out. But before they start a trip, all alcohol gets locked up on board. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting. You know, so precautions like that. As far as who their crew is composed of, I can't tell you, other than, you know, I assume most of it is probably of other nationalities, but I don't think that rules out people from the United States being employed and you know, that kind of thing. I can, one thing I can do is always ask if you want me to pursue it. So
I was just curious because we hear about it from AMHS and we're hearing about it from these other companies, American based or state based, that it's really hard to find and recruit employees. So I was curious if that was filtering over into other countries or organizations, but it could.
I don't have any idea. I can tell you that by the time, and this wasn't a long presentation, and I talked to the Manmeet and one of the vice presidents who lives in Vancouver, Canada. But I talked to those guys afterwards, and if I was looking for a job, I'd like to work for them. That outfit. So anyway.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Zink. Appreciate that.
Mr. Mayor, go on your.
Yep. Go ahead, Walt.
I know it's dragging on. I'm going to give you just a brief report of what the SOS response has been doing on both the 6th and the 20th of this month. We had on-water exercises attended by 5 people each time on the water with boom, and both went well. We made some mistakes, but that's sort of the reason we do these things, is to iron things out and figure out what works and what doesn't. But anyway, we're still active, and thank you.
Good. Thanks for that quick update, Walt.
Is that it? Okay.
All right. Well, we got the full rundown tonight from Cook Inlet to Prince William Sound to Seldovia. So that's good. All committees and councils good and active with ongoing work. So that's good to hear. That'll take us over to item J, administrative reports. Your finance monthly written report is going to be found on page 8 of your packet. Looks like we're about just a little over halfway through our 3rd month already of the new fiscal year. Looks like all percentages of revenues, expenditures, fairly small in the early going here. Couple notes at the end of the report there, where the general fund and the SRFs are showing the effect of paying the FY26 insurance in a lump sum at the beginning of the year. That will account for your higher expenditures early on. And Heidi, looks like the FY26 audit is in its early stages. Is that supposed to say 26 or FY25?
It should be FY25. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. Anyone have any questions or comments on the finance report tonight? Okay, second item will be under J2, administrative reports will be the Public Works Maintenance report, that's going to be found on page 12 of your packet. Looks like we're getting into full winter mode here. Water turnoffs, boat haul outs. Heidi, did you guys get started on the brush burning clearing yet, or?
Through the mayor, yes, they did. They've burnt the last Friday. They're about halfway through. I'll double check where they're at now. I don't know that they made any progress today, but they are working through it.
Okay, more material going down on roads and lots.
Yep, and they have it under upcoming projects, but that has started in earnest. The cleanup and reorganization of the shop after insulation. It did, makes a little bit of a mess, and they had to take a lot of things out. So it's a good opportunity. Public Works operator Miller said even though it was kind of dirty and grimy, it was really nice to be able to take their time and do it right and get things back in there and organized so they know where it's all at. It's a good refresh for them.
I'm sure there's a little junk hiding in there too that could probably hit the dumpsters as well.
Exactly.
Good. All right. Anyone? Looks like things are going well there. Anyone with any questions, comments on the Public Works report? Okay, awesome. We will, let's see, that will conclude item J. We'll move on to item K, public hearings. This will be item K1, ordinance 26-03, a non-code ordinance to the City Council of the City of Seldovia, Alaska, amending the FY26 budget by appropriating funds from the Public Safety Reserve Fund for the installation of the 35 kW generator and automatic transfer switch. This was introduced on 9/9, and Heidi will go ahead and let you present, and this will also be found on page 13 of your packet.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, so page 13, and this is following a grant that we received. We $50,000 from Title III Emergency Planning and Preparedness. And we were able to purchase the new generator. That was $37,894. So we have about $12,000 left. Put out a request for quotes to see where we could get with the installation of the generator. And of course, that includes that we need a new automatic transfer switch. With that, we received one quote back. And the council did approve a resolution at the last city council meeting to award that RFP to the proposer that we received, or the RFQ to the proposer for 22,000. Why don't I have this written in front of me? I do have a memo on page 14, 27. Oh, sorry. Yes, $27,222. So that was approved by council to proceed with that contract. These funds do have to be obligated by the end of the month. However, that left a shortfall of $15,150 to complete this project that has not been appropriated and is not available through the grant. So the ordinance was introduced to utilize funds from the Public Safety Reserve Fund in order to complete this work. However, after that introduction, we did receive notice from the Division of Community Regional Affairs. In fact, we received the funds already that our CAP funding, which was anticipated to be in the 50,000s, was actually 25,000 more than anticipated. So was actually 20. Here I have it. $22,731 is what we received, in addition to the previous, in addition to the estimate that we received from the DCRA. So my question to council is, we can continue to utilize the funds from the Public Safety Reserve Fund. We hadn't had that conversation, so I was hoping to have that tonight with you guys. If that is amenable. Otherwise, the other options for those funds is you could use a part of the unassigned major maintenance and repair fund, which has an ending fund balance of 13,961, and the general fund major maintenance and repair fund of 4,513. Or you could use the funds, the overage of funds from the community assistance program that we weren't anticipated. It does line up with previous years, so we're really thankful for that, to fund the rest of this project. I know in the past we have talked about utilizing the community assistance program funds for capital projects, or to complete things outside of the budget. Or, I mean, we'd budget it, but to complete items that we're not dependent on them, on those funds, the cap funds in the budget, for ongoing city operations. So we keep being told every year that we're no longer going to have this program. As we're all aware that we heard the estimate was $25,000 less, at the beginning of this year. And of course that didn't happen. So I'm repeating myself. I apologize. So we're grateful for that. But long story short, they are there now. If you wanted to appropriate them for this project, I did provide an example of language for that. Otherwise, we can have a discussion in the future about how to appropriate these funds. And then if they were appropriated tonight instead of the public safety, there would be still 7,581 and cap funding that would need to be appropriated through a legislation in the future. So one way or another, we're going to bring forward legislation to appropriate these funds. But at the meantime, the discussion is, do you guys want to fund this project through the public safety fund, that reserve fund that you set aside 50,000 in the FY25 budget, or do you want to choose another method in order to complete this project? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Heidi. Anyone got any initial thoughts or comments on which way we would like to proceed?
Mr. Mayor?
Yep, go ahead, Vivian.
Yeah, I would, it seems like the cap money, the funds from that, the conversation over years, as our city manager just spoke of, that would be a perfect example of use overage of that money to pay for something like this instead of hitting directly into our budget. So I would be in favor of using the cap fund to fund this project of the generator, if that's what I heard correctly.
Yep. Okay. Nope. That's an option. Certainly that's an option. Heidi, I've got a question. So remind me annually what in FY25, what was the that's the balance on that, the public works, or excuse me, no, the, let's see, our, oh Jesus, where are we at here? Hold on. From our public safety reserve fund, so we have the 55,000 or whatever is our balance in that. How much did we put in there in FY25? Do you recall?
Through the mayor, thank you. So on page 14, you'll see that there's actually $51,520 in there. And you guys initially put 50,000 in there in FY25. So it's been in there almost a year from the time it was transferred, and it's made about $1,500 in interest.
Okay, so that was just, okay, that's for now, it's coming back to me. That's what we did. So we had talked about that, then we came up with the plan to just put the X amount of balance in there or funds in there, and then we've left that. Okay.
And through the mayor, I need to double check that timeline. It actually might have been FY24. I'm sorry, it's blending, but recently you guys
it was within the last year or two.
Appropriated those funds through the budget, and they were transferred into their own account, and they now have $1,500 in interest.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yep, absolutely.
So I'm in agreement with Vivian that I think it would be a great way to use those excess funds, but I also just want to bring up. I'm trying to think of if there was anything, is there anything else that we can think of where we were lacking funds, or that would behoove us to use those excess funds for right now and have that as part of the decision making. Just because we do have this reserve fund, and it has to, and the reason that we said we would use the funds out of the reserve fund is that it has to do with this building, which is part of what that fund, is for the police department and public safety, and the generator is for that. So our initial choice to take it from that fund still makes sense. And it would just be not to try to just spend money because we have it, but just make sure that we're not missing out on another opportunity, a grant we're working on, or something where we might see a shortfall coming, maybe in another project, where we wouldn't feel like we're having to, because we all have all that money there, but then it's coming from the appropriate places. If that makes sense. Like if there's another project we might see that comes back this year that we've committed to doing, and as we're seeing this trend that everything, is coming back a little higher than anticipated, or maybe we do part of it from each, just something to kind of bring a little conversation, get us thinking a little bit.
Yeah, that was my thoughts, Ashley, too, was just thinking, making sure we're matching the appropriate funding source to pay the bill, if you would, on this. And I think you're right. I think either one of these are appropriate, right? But do we have a more pressing need elsewhere? Whereas the cap funds, we could kind of utilize those anywhere across any of our departments, right? Whereas our public safety reserve fund is a little more specific on what we want to be able to use that for. So I'm the same. I could go either way. I think it makes good sense to use the cap funds. And of course we can kind of do anything we want to. I mean, if we needed to pull for an emergency out of those to reallocate, we can certainly do that with proper justification if the council's on board. But yeah, no, I think, keeping it in line with the intent of what all these funds are for, we could certainly go either way. But I wouldn't be opposed to using cap funds either, if that's what the majority of the council, wants to do.
Through the mayor, to help guide that conversation, on page 15 is a copy of the reserve fund page from the budget. So you can see what was budgeted in FY26 for those reserve funds. That is an excellent point about the projects. We do have 3 major ones coming up. Raw water transmission line we'll be discussing here next. And there is a cash match in that of, let's see, I believe, let me find it in here. We did say we were going to put up some funds for that. 40,000 local match from the city of Seldovia. Jack Loff has $140,000 match. The CBGJ has a $42,000 match. That's for the fuel and lube roof. Those things have been budgeted at this point, but that's not to say that things could shift or change as we work through these projects. Additionally, staff has requested a quote to repair the safety ladders and platforms on the dock. So that will be going into the CIP. And council has requested for us to work on the electric in both the harbor and the boat haul out storage yard. So there's potential to complete more projects if those funds are used in that way. And we can have a bigger discussion on that here in the future if you want to use the public safety funds and just think this through. And like the mayor said, you can always change moving forward. But that is a fair point, as you do have quite a few projects that are upcoming, as well as some items that you would like to see or have directed staff to move forward here in the next year or two, a year or so. So that's definitely a consideration.
with our public safety fund, I don't remember the specifics of over the last 2 years what we've done. I mean, we basically dismantled that. We came to putting 50,000 in our reserve fund. We've reallocated that money, if you will. If we used it out of our public reserve fund, if you will, public safety reserve fund, we would have a chance through the budget process this year to put that money back, if you so to speak.
Through the mayor, that is correct. And I did double check. You can see that on this page that it was FY25 that it was put in there. So interest over a year, just about is what is what has sat in there. And yes, of course, if you wanted to use it and then put it back through the budget process or other means, you could. Or you could make that a part of the ordinance as well, as that you would like to see those funds reinvested in that account in the near future.
Of course, keeping that intact is nice too when you're making interest as well. So, yeah, number of things to consider. So, anyone else with any additional thoughts on which direction they'd like to go?
I guess I would be leaning towards, if we're kind of down the middle, sticking with what we originally did, just because it does go cleaner, whereas my bookkeeping brain likes the way that looks. And as we all just discussed, basically the money's coming from somewhere, regardless, and that other money is there going somewhere. And this way we're taking it from a place that it's meant to come from, and then we've identified some other areas that the other funds would go to, it could potentially go to in discussion that makes sense. And I do like the idea of having part of that plan, looking at replenishing that account, not just taking away. So that's my thought.
Yeah, I definitely I'm in support of that idea too. That I like that. So,
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Vivian.
Yeah. Could I get clarification? I wasn't quite sure what Ashley was referring to. Take the monies from the safety account. If you could just clarify.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. From the public safety reserve fund,
Okay.
and then having a stating in there, it doesn't have to be this year per se, but maybe saying in the next 2 years or 3 years, we'll make sure to build that back up so that we're always trying to have a base.
Put back. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Okay, anyone else before we go to public? Okay, anyone online or in the audience that wishes to speak from the public on the approval of ordinance 26-03?
I'm not seeing any hands, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we'll go ahead and bring ordinance 26-03 back to council for final action.
Mr. Mayor, do we need to specify where this money is coming from in this motion?
Yeah, if we were going to, we can either make a motion to approve 2603 as is, which would come from the Public Safety Reserve Fund, or we would need to make an amendment, as example that was shown on page 14 of your packet at the bottom there, where it's got, if you wanted to take the funds from, for example, from the CAP funds from the Capital Assistance Program.
Okay, otherwise it's just a motion to pass or I don't have the paperwork in front of me.
Yes, yep, it would just be a motion to approve ordinance 26-03 as is.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve.
I have some.
Oops.
I'll go ahead and second that motion.
Okay, you jumped the gun there. Let Vivian go ahead and finish.
That we approve ordinance 26-03
3.
3. Okay.
Okay, Meg, your second?
Yep, I'll go ahead and second that.
Okay. All right, we have an ordinance, or excuse me, go ahead. Heidi, do you have a question? I see your hand reaching.
That was quick, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to ask if you guys wanted to make an amendment to the ordinance to include a whereas that in the next 2 years, funds
Right.
utilized for this project will be returned to the Public Safety Reserve Fund.
That's a real good idea.
Yeah.
That's
agree.
And Mr. Mayor, in addition to that, we can amend it, what our city manager just stated.
Okay, so we've got amendment on so Vivian, we'll go ahead and have you sponsoring the motion to amend ordinance 26-03 to include a whereas to restore funding within the next 2 years back to the current balance. And we'll need a second on the amendment.
I'll second
I'll
that.
go ahead.
Okay, we have a second by member Keithley. Any further discussion on the amendment before we vote? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote on ordinance 26-03 as amended, which includes the clause that funding will be restored within the next 2 years to its current balance. Any further discussion on the amendment before we vote? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, Langbart,
Aye.
Barber,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
Peyton,
Aye.
Keithley.
Aye.
Okay, amendment passes 5 in the affirmative, none opposed. That'll take us back to the main motion, which has now been amended to include a clause to restore the funding within the next 24 months. Any further discussion on ordinance 26-03 as amended? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the approval of ordinance 26-03 as amended. All those in favor, Langbart,
Aye.
Barber,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
Peyton,
Aye.
and Keithley.
Aye.
Okay, ordinance 26-03 is passed with 5 in the affirmative and none opposed. Okay, thank you everyone for your discussion on that. Item L, unfinished business, none. Item M, a new business. This will be our last legislative action of the night. This will be item M1, resolution 26-06, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Seldovia, Alaska, awarding request for proposals RFP number 01-2026, design build services for the lower water transmission main replacement to East Road Services Incorporated, and authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute the appropriate documents. This will be found on page 17 of your packet, and Heidi, you can take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is exciting. As you have as we've discussed, that the EPA community grant, this was an appropriation through Senator Murkowski's office. It was a request the city made through the city office for this project. It was included in the FY23 appropriations bill, has since become the Environmental Protection Agency Community Grant Program, has been approved. We are moving through this grant. The RFP was approved, and the City Council additionally through the EPA, as well as was passed and approved by the City Council through Resolution 2553. We did end up extending the timeline because we had several questions and requests to do so. So that pushed the timeline back to the City Council meeting. However, we received 3 very decent proposals for this project. The proposals were scored by myself, the finance officer, city clerk, and one of our public works employees, as well as Mr. Mayor had a chance to look at them, and the engineer who helped us with the application process through the EPA. So with that in mind, East Road Services did have the best response according to their total score. They also happen to have the lowest firm fixed price of $934,000. In the RFP, we had them at what was it? $1,135,000 about there that they needed to budget, or that they had room to budget for. And so this is well below that. There's some opportunity to work with them to expand the project, and they are partnered with Kuna. So Kuna Engineering is the engineering firm that will be working on the design process of this project. So we're looking forward to working with them if approved by the city council tonight, and completing this project hopefully next summer.
Thank you, Heidi. We will go ahead and open it up to council for initial comments. And I will just say I did get an opportunity after these were scored to take a look at each of the proposals. All three firms obviously more than qualified to do this work. East End's proposal was excellent. They did a great job of addressing all the criteria. Their proposal was solid. Pricing obviously is always a plus. To me, these days, you really can't even look at pricing as number one. There's too many other factors involved on getting some of these more technical projects done. So I was glad at the end of the day that I gave my pick before I saw any of the scores, and we agreed on that. So that was good that we were all in agreement the way the scores turned out. So I think we're making a good choice, and excited about the project moving forward. And yeah, hopefully council will support resolution 26-06, and I am certainly in support of it. So we'll go in and open up to the council for any additional comments, questions.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yep, go ahead, Vivian.
Yeah, Heidi, I heard you say something about expand the scope, but I might have heard that wrong. What were you referring to?
Through the mayor, thank you. They just had included in their proposal, and this wasn't really taken into account in the review, but it is an interesting proposition as we move forward, that if because of the low costs, that we could expand the repair up the transmission line. There's another 1,800 feet that was repaired back a couple decades ago. So if there was a desire when they get in there and see the condition to expand that project further, there's the potential to do so. Don't know that that will be needed or necessary. And like I said, that wasn't necessarily a part of the scoring, but is interesting proposition with working with this firm.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I am in support of this. I'm really excited it's going to happen. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Vivian. Anyone else with any questions, comments on resolution 26-06? Yeah, I'll just throw one thing out too. Obviously, yeah, I'd never want to count your chickens before they're hatched. You know, I've seen worse thing happens when, you know, contractors are low and they come in and they start hitting you with a bunch of change orders too. So hopefully we do not see that. And so we'll see how it all plays out here at the end. Obviously, everyone came over and had an opportunity to walk the project, so they all know what they're getting into here. Let's see, if there's no other questions, comments, we can go to public. Is there anyone in the public wishing to comment or have questions on resolution 26-06?
I'm not seeing any, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we'll go ahead and bring resolution 26-06 back to council for final action.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance 26-06.
correction, resolution
Oh,
26.
resolution 2606.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Rojas to approve resolution 26-06 with a second by Keithley. Any further discussion on resolution 26-06 before we vote? Okay, hearing none, we will go ahead and vote on the approval of resolution 26-06. All those in favor, Langbart,
Aye.
Barber,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
Peyton,
Aye.
and Keithley.
Aye.
All right, motion passes 5 in the affirmative, 0 opposed. Thank you everyone for your input on that. Another exciting project going to be getting off the ground here. So we are making some serious headway on our capital improvement projects in this community. So that's super, super exciting. Item N, the city manager's report, and this will be found in your laydown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you could bear with me here for a few minutes, I'll just give you an update of where we're at. So wanted to let you guys all know and invite you to a site visit next week with KB NER and their partners. These are some of the same folks that we just applied for a wetlands and hydrology assessment project with. And so, preemptively, they are coming over to Seldovia on September 29th. That's next Monday from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. We will be visiting the reservoir and the Fish Creek Dam, as well as some of the sites around town, and then having lunch. It'll be bring your own lunch and having discussion about potential projects moving forward. And we'd love to invite the council. So if any of you guys want to attend, we'll be in town on Monday. Let me know. We'll make sure that there's room in a vehicle for you, and you can come along and hear what they have to say. Also, to invite you guys to an event, the AML Winter Conference is being held December 8th through 12th this year. The newly elected officials training will be the couple days before that. This is AML's 75th anniversary celebration. It's always a wealth of knowledge between the different work sessions that take place. I know we've had Councilmember Keithley before. We've had Councilmember Langbart. Certainly we'll encourage our newly elected officials to attend at least that portion of the training. But if any of you have that time in your schedule, please let us know. That way we can make sure we reserve hotel rooms for you, and work and register you for the conference and work on those logistics.
Heidi, is that in Anchorage this year?
Yep.
Okay.
So at the Denina Center, AML grant writing services. And speaking with AML this month, they were asking, since we did the boardwalk projects, and of course those are on the backs of their minds as we continue moving forward. But they were curious what other projects city wanted them to look at for grant writing moving forward. I did talk about how we've recently talked about needing a housing needs assessment, completion of the value added building, and a planning project for a heavy equipment and emergency storage building outside of the inundation zone. If there are other projects that you would rather us direct their time towards, or projects in addition, please let me know, especially as we start going into the CIP discussion. That'll be a great opportunity to prioritize where they're working. She said it was great to have a broader list because you never know what's going to pop up. So they also have a copy of our CIP from last year. And when we have the new CIP, we'll provide that as well, so they can use that to work forward. Kevin Shoneman with ARWA will be here tomorrow for the week to help with the sanitary survey that's due. Our water treatment plant remote supervisor, Todd Cook, will also be here. I believe on Wednesday, we still need to arrange that travel, and he will be helping operator Botero with the install of the booster pump. We wanted to get that done as soon as we could. It's been a long time coming. And we also heard from ADC that we have a new remote maintenance worker, Ryan Johnson, and he is planning on being here the first week of November to familiarize himself with the community, get to know our operators, and be able to provide additional support. We always appreciate having ADC here and available to help out. So that's great. In addition, we did complete a draft AMOS, so that's an alternative method of system supervision plan. The last one we did was in 2022, and it was requested by ADEC that we updated that. As you guys are aware, we're a level 2 water treatment plant, and we don't have a level 2 water treatment operator at this time. They're pretty hard to come by because of the amount of hours that's required, especially here in Seldovia. If they're working for us, they're not getting full days. So it takes even longer to be able to accumulate those hours. With that in mind, we do have Todd Cook as our remote supervisor. He has those certifications that we need and provides oversight for that plant, and is available to help out as needed. So hopefully that plan is approved, and we'll let you know how that works out. Additionally, at the plant, the water treatment plant, the SCD, that's our stream current detector, is acting up again. So it's been on manual operation for over a month or about a month. With the high turbidity event that we experienced, we're no longer in a high turbidity event. So Operator Botero did a backwash last week and attempted to put the SCD back onto automatic operations, and it continued to have issues with the injection rates. So it's back on manual operations. He had to do another flush of the filters, get everything back online again. I think he's still working through that process, but getting towards the end of it. And it'll remain on manual operations. I'm hoping to troubleshoot that a little bit with Kevin and Todd while they're here. I'm potentially looking at buying a new one. This is an ongoing discussion we've had for over the last year. And I believe last time we talked about it was over $20,000 to replace that part. So I'll let you know, speaking of CAP funds, that's a potential that could be utilized for that. Alaska Technical Solutions was also here. I think it's just the fall. Everybody's visiting. We asked them to come because we're having just an overload of network maintenance and requirements and things that Liz and myself are taking care of throughout the buildings at the city, and missing Radzi, of course, and his operations. So they came and did a review of our network systems to provide solutions for streamlining those processes. It sounds like we have a really good plan. They'll be coming back here in a couple of months in order to implement that. And of course, that also helps with our cybersecurity assessment that we had. So making sure that we are updating our systems and being as secure as possible. Public Works update. I know we just talked about the burning that's happening across from the city storage yard and the resetting of the maintenance shop. So I won't go into that further. A quick update on the SVFD repeater. As has been reported, we did approve on behalf of the SVFD the purchase of a replacement repeater. That's last we heard was supposed to be available mid-October. Hasn't been an update in a while, even though Procom has requested it. And we also received the quote. They were going to do some work to do an antenna and a radio station in Homer that would allow the Homer dispatch to the radio directly into Seldovia, and would take away one of our not access points, but take away one of our steps for a dispatch call. Right now, Homer dispatch has to call the sensophone, and sensophone picks up at the school, and then that goes out over the radio, or beeps out, and then dispatch has to pick it up. This way, it would eliminate that step, and they would just be able to radio in. However, that quote came back more than anticipated. The SVFD board had appropriated $15,000 for this project, and with all the work, it's about $17,000. So they will be having a meeting to discuss that budget here shortly. SOC coordinator, I don't know if you saw, if I mentioned it at the last meeting. I believe I might have that the SOC facility coordinator, Lisa Stanish's last day is September 25th. We are really going to miss her and everything that she's done in that position. The position has been posted. We haven't received any interest yet. So I will be discussing with her this week a transition plan for that facility while we, in the interim, while we wait to see if that position's filled, as well as discussing with the CIRSA board at their upcoming meeting, or I'll be inquiring what they would like to see moving forward. VSW project update. I'm really excited to announce that we finally have the solicitations for these projects. The Seldovia Sluice Sewer Improvements Project and the Seldovia Sewer Treatment Improvement Project design for both of those was combined into one. So that's solicitations for the wastewater collection and treatment improvements design. And then there was a solicitation that went out for the water and wastewater systems evaluation. So those were issued last week and will close mid-October. Otherwise, I guess the last real update is that the draft environmental assessment was submitted to MARAD last week. So they're in the review process, and once that's finalized, we anticipate comments. They always have comments back and forth on the EA and the draft agreement that they received, and hopefully can get those finalized by November. One thing I didn't include in here, the next planning meeting is scheduled for October 1st, and they are working on a update to the building permit to include site development. So this came out of the topographical impact discussion that was had, and there was an ordinance that was presented to City Council, which you referred back to the Planning Commission for more detail. So it's updating the building permit to include site development, not just buildings, but if there's development happening on a site for the demolition of a building, moving a building, any kind of alteration to the topography that's over 10, that's over 10% of the slopes of the grade. So if they're paving a flat surface, we don't necessarily care about that as much, but if they're going to be any digging or filling, those kind of things will be included in the building permit process. So if you would like more information on that or have a moment to attend, I encourage you to come, and that's next October 1st. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, one question for you on it's kind of important, the VSW project update. So with those going out and actually getting selected and going out, I'm assuming those are going to go out, RFPs are going to go out now for the solicitation, and then so are those funded then at this point through VSW, and they will pay for those design projects? Is that where we're at?
Through the mayor, yes. These are
Okay.
funded through VSW. We signed a cooperative agreement to work with them through these projects. I believe the Luce Sewer Improvement Project was set to have all of its funding. The sewer treatment plant did not. It is set to have all of its funding, but in multiple funding cycles. So the first one was just for design. That was about 10% of the project. And then there's supposed to roll funds over an additional years to fund the rest of the project, but we'll see how that moves forward in the current state. But
Well,
as
right. And once we get through the design, then we're that much closer to a shovel-ready project. Makes it that much more easier to obtain grant funding. So, okay. All right. No, that's super exciting. That's good news. That's way good news. Anyone else? Any questions, comments for the city manager on the manager's report tonight? Okay, great. Thank you, Heidi. Item O, informational items not requiring action. Absentee voting for the October 7th election begins today, Monday, September 22nd at the city office. By mail, request for absentee ballots must be received by September 30th. So, all right, that is, and what are the times you guys are going to be open for that, Heidi?
It's Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Okay, Monday through Friday, 9 to 4. Awesome, thank you. Executive session, we have none planned for tonight. Item Q, council and mayor comments concerning items not on the agenda. Langbart?
No comment, no comment. Sorry.
Okay, Barber?
Yes.
You got something to say or no?
No.
Okay. Rojas?
Yeah. Great job, everyone, and really exciting news where Seldovia is headed. The infrastructure, the money we're getting with the SW, excellent news. Thank you, everyone, for your hard work. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Vivian. Peyton?
I had a couple things. One, we have a booster club auction and dinner coming up this weekend. Come out and support your local teams, you guys. We also, there was something else. Oh, also, I would just like to put out there, a call for anybody who has the time or the inclination to be a substitute in our lovely school. There's a lot of times when people need to go to trainings or have other obligations to attend to, and we just need an extra body. And we have a very shallow bench. So if you have time and would consider it, reach out to us. Anyways, cheers. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, Harmony. Hey, quick question related to all that. Where are we at on enrollment these days for school?
We have 35 children enrolled at Susan B. English at this time.
35 right now. Excellent. Good. Good. Numbers are climbing back up. That is awesome to hear. And congrats on your new job.
Thank you. We have the best students in all the land.
Let's see. Keithley.
Nothing this evening. Thank you, guys.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Appreciate all of your input tonight. Good legislation. And again, sorry for the delay in getting started there. Our next meeting will be held on Monday, October 13th at 2025 at 6 p.m. And I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
A
Okay.
second.
And we do have a motion to adjourn and a second. Any objection? All right. Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a
Thank
good
you,
night.
Mr. Mayor.